The great hall on Consensus Prime was silent. Ambassador Chen Zhao sat in the human seat, a small chair among hundreds of others. Around her, aliens of every shape filled the massive room. Some floated like gas clouds. Others stood tall like living crystals. Some looked like insects, and some had no shape she could name. They were all here for one reason. Stars were dying. It started 3 months ago. A star in the Kepler system collapsed without warning. Then another star died in the Tau sector. Then 3 more. Now 23 colony worlds sat in darkness, their suns gone cold. Billions of people waited on dying planets, hoping someone would save them. The Galactic Council called this emergency meeting. Chen watched as the eldest races took turns speaking. The Vathir were beings made of living crystal. They had existed for 5 million years. Their speaker's voice rang like bells through the hall. "We must study this carefully," the Vathir said. "We propose a research committee. Give us 15 years to understand what is happening." 15 years. Chen wrote it down in her notes. She did not look up. The Tarathi spoke next. They were old, perhaps the oldest race in the galaxy. They looked like walking trees made of metal. Their representative moved slowly to the speaking platform. "This has happened before," the Tarathi said. "Long ago, other civilizations faced similar problems. We should search the old records. We should dig through ancient ruins. Perhaps we will find answers there." Chen kept writing. She added archaeological surveys to her notes. The debate continued. Week after week, the council talked. The Luminal Collective wanted to form a subcommittee. The Cathara Empire suggested a joint task force. The Builders Union presented a 200-page proposal about proper procedures. Every race had ideas. Every race wanted to discuss those ideas in detail. Chen sent reports back to Earth every day. Each report said the same thing. They are still talking. No action yet. On Earth, people did not wait for the council to finish talking. Scientists at Luna Base worked day and night. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo led a team of the best minds humanity had. They studied all the data the council shared. They ran simulations. They tested theories. After 6 weeks, they found the answer. The dying stars were not sick. Something was killing them. Tiny machines, smaller than dust, were eating the stars from the inside. These nanites were designed to harvest stellar material. They were weapons from some ancient war. Dr. Okonkwo sent her findings to the council immediately. She included all the data, all the proof, everything they needed to know. The council received the report. They read it carefully. Then they voted to form another committee. This committee would spend 2 years checking if the human findings were correct. They would verify everything before taking any action. Chen stood up in the council chamber when she heard this. Her voice was calm but firm. 2 years? She asked. How many more worlds will die in 2 years? How many more billions of people will freeze in the dark? The Vathir speaker turned her crystalline face toward Chen. Ambassador, your species is very young. You have been part of this council for only 200 years. We have existed for millions of years. We have learned that careful thought prevents terrible mistakes. Rushing into action without full understanding is dangerous. People are dying right now, Chen said. While we talk, they die. Every day we wait, more die. We understand your concern, the Tarathi said. His voice was slow and deep like rocks grinding together. But wisdom takes time. We cannot risk making the wrong choice. Chen sat down. She sent one more report to Earth. This report was different. It had only 3 words. They will not act. On Earth, the government held an emergency meeting. The president sat with military leaders, scientists, and engineers. They all read Chen's report. They all understood what it meant. We cannot wait for them, the president said. Admiral Marcus Webb nodded. He was the commander of Earth's space fleet. We have a plan ready. We call it Project Helios. We can build ships that carry stellar stabilizers. These devices can inject counter-nanites into the dying stars. They might stop the plague? Might? Someone asked. The technology is untested, Dr. Okonkwo admitted. We have only run computer simulations. We have never tried it on a real star. The success rate in our models is about 40%. The room was quiet. 40%, less than half, and if we do nothing? The president asked. Then every star in the Orion Arm will die, Dr. Okonkwo said, including our sun. We have maybe 5 years before the nanite cloud reaches Earth. The president looked around the room. Every face showed the same understanding. This was not really a choice. They had to try. How long to build these ships? The president asked. We have shipyards at Mars, Jupiter's moons, and Alpha Centauri. Admiral Webb said. If we start now, if we use every resource we have, we can launch the first fleet in 4 months. Do it, the president said. Build 50 ships. Send our best crews. We save those worlds or we die trying. Admiral Webb saluted and left to begin the work. Across human space, shipyards roared to life. Workers left their families to labor day and night. Scientists abandoned their research to help design the ships. Engineers solved impossible problems with creativity and desperation. They called it the Prometheus Fleet. 50 ships to steal fire from death itself. Back on Consensus Prime, the Council continued its debate. They discussed the humans' data. They argued about committees and protocols. They talked about proper procedures and ancient wisdom. Ambassador Chen watched them talk. She received daily updates from Earth. Construction was on schedule. The fleet would launch in 3 months. She did not tell the Council. Not yet. She knew what they would say. They would call it illegal. They would say humans were breaking galactic law. They would demand that Earth stop. Chen made a decision. Her government had already decided to act. Her job now was simple. Keep the Council talking. Keep them distracted. Give her people time to save the galaxy. The old races wanted to debate. So Chen would let them debate. She would ask questions. She would propose amendments. She would do whatever it took to slow them down. While the galaxy talked, humanity prepared to act. 3 months passed. The Galactic Council was still talking. They had formed the Committee for the Investigation of Stellar Anomalies and Appropriate Response Measures. The committee had 17 subcommittees. Each subcommittee was studying a different aspect of the problem. Ambassador Chen attended every meeting. She listened to endless speeches. She watched as the old races argued about small details. Should the committee have 17 subcommittees or 19? Should they meet weekly or monthly? The debates went on and on. Chen smiled and nodded. She asked thoughtful questions. She suggested they study things more carefully. She was doing her job. She was buying time. In orbit around Mars, Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of the flagship Daedalus. Through the window, he could see the rest of the Prometheus fleet. 50 ships, each one built in record time. They were not beautiful. They were not elegant. They looked like what they were. Weapons built by desperate people. Each ship carried a stellar stabilizer. The device was massive, taking up most of the ship's cargo bay. It contained trillions of counter-programmed nanites. These tiny machines were designed to stop the plague. In theory, all ships report ready, sir, Captain Jennifer Ortiz said. She was Webb's second in command, a veteran of 20 years in space. Webb nodded. Crew survival estimates? Ortiz checked her screen. 38%, sir. We lose an average of 31 ships in the simulations. 31 ships. Over 6,000 people. Webb had commanded fleets before. He had sent people into danger. But never like this. Never with odds this bad. Have any of them asked to leave? Webb asked. No, sir. We have more volunteers than we have ships. We turned away 10,000 applicants. Webb looked at the fleet again. Every person on those ships knew they might die. They volunteered anyway. That was humanity. That was why Webb believed they could win. Signal all ships, Webb said. We launch in 1 hour. Destination, Kepler 442 system. The news spread quickly through the galaxy. Humanity had built a fleet. They were moving toward a dying star without council approval. Alien races across space reacted with shock. The elegant Cathara sent an official complaint to Earth. This action violates Protocol 447B and Protocol 892C, their message said. The Galactic Council has not authorized any military response. Humanity must recall this fleet immediately. Earth did not respond. The Builders Union sent a longer message. It listed 17 different regulations that humanity was breaking. It explained in great detail why unauthorized action was dangerous. It warned that humanity would face severe consequences. Earth did not respond to that message either. On Consensus Prime, the Council held an emergency session. Ambassador Chen was called to speak before them. The chamber was full. Every race wanted to see what the human would say. The Vither High Speaker addressed her. Her crystalline body glowed with anger. Ambassador Chen, your species has launched a military fleet without council approval. This is a violation of our most sacred laws. Explain yourself, Chen stood. She looked at the thousands of aliens watching her. She thought about Admiral Webb and his fleet. She thought about the people on Kepler 442, waiting for their sun to die. The people of Kepler 442 have 6 weeks left, Chen said simply. Your committee planned to send a fact-finding mission in 6 months. We did not have 6 months to wait. You cannot decide these things alone, a Tarathi representative shouted. We are a council. We decide together. You are one small species. You have no right to act without us. You are correct, Chen said. We are one small species. We have only been in space for a few centuries. We do not have your wisdom or your experience. But we have something you have forgotten. And what is that? The Vathir High Speaker asked. We remember what it means to be afraid, Chen said. We remember what it means to face extinction. We have not lived so long that we forgot how to act when death is coming. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens argued with each other. Some shouted at Chen. Some shouted at their own allies. The Vathir High Speaker called for order, but it took several minutes for the room to quiet down. When silence finally returned, the High Speaker spoke again. The Council will vote. Should humanity be censured for this violation of galactic law? The vote was quick. 723 races voted yes. Only one race voted no. Humanity stood alone. The censure is approved, the High Speaker announced. Humanity is formally condemned for this action. Ambassador Chen, you will remain on Consensus Prime. Your government will be notified of serious consequences if this fleet is not recalled immediately. Chen bowed slightly. I understand. I will inform my government of your decision. She left the chamber and went to her office. She wrote a message to Earth. It was short. They voted to condemn us. They demand we recall the fleet. I recommend we ignore them. The response came back in 2 hours. Recommendation approved. Fleet will proceed as planned, Chen smiled. She filed the message away and went back to her quarters. Tomorrow there would be more meetings, more debates, more votes to condemn humanity. Let them vote. Let them talk. The Prometheus fleet was already halfway to Kepler 442. On the Daedalus, Admiral Webb reviewed the mission plan one more time. The Kepler 442 system had 1 star and 4 planets. The second planet was home to 4 billion Mithara. The Mithara were a peaceful race. They looked like large, furry creatures with 6 legs. They had never hurt anyone. They did not deserve to die, but their star was dying. The nanite cloud was thick around it. The star was losing mass. In 6 weeks, it would collapse completely. When that happened, the planet would freeze. All 4 billion Mithara would die within days. The mission was simple in concept, impossible in execution. The fleet had to fly through the nanite cloud. They had to get close to the star. Then they had to inject the stellar stabilizers directly into the star's corona. The counter-nanites would spread through the star, destroying the plague from the inside. The problem was the nanite cloud. It dissolved anything it touched. The plague worked at the molecular level. It broke apart the bonds that held matter together. Ships that entered the cloud would start falling apart immediately. How long can our shields last? Webb asked. In the thickest part of the cloud, maybe 8 minutes, Ortiz said. We need 5 minutes to deploy the stabilizers. That gives us 3 minutes of safety margin. 3 minutes. Webb had fought in battles where seconds mattered. 3 minutes seemed like a lifetime. But he knew better. Things always went wrong. Equipment failed. People made mistakes. 3 minutes would vanish like smoke. What if we lose ships on the first run? Webb asked. Then we keep going, Ortiz said. Each ship is independent. If the Daedalus falls, the others continue. We succeed or we all die trying. Webb looked at his crew. They were young, most of them. Many had joined the fleet straight from training. They had volunteered for a mission with less than 50% survival odds. They were heroes, every one of them. All crew, Webb announced over the ship's communication system. This is Admiral Webb. In 2 days we reach Kepler 442. You all know the odds. You all know the risks. I want you to know something else. Back on Consensus Prime, the Council is voting to condemn us. They say we are wrong to act. They say we should wait for their approval. Webb paused. He thought about what to say next. I say they are wrong. I say that when people are dying, you do not wait. You do not form committees. You do not debate for years. You act. You do whatever it takes to save lives. That is what makes us human. That is why we are here. The crew was silent. Webb could see them on screens throughout the ship. Every face showed determination. In 2 days, we save 4 billion lives, Webb said. Or we die trying. Either way, the galaxy will remember what humanity stands for. They will remember that we acted. The Prometheus fleet continued toward Kepler 442. Behind them, the Galactic Council held another vote. This one was to form a committee to investigate whether humanity should be expelled from the Council entirely. The vote passed easily. Humanity did not care. They were already moving toward the next dying star. The Prometheus fleet arrived at Kepler 442 on schedule. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of the Daedalus and looked at the view screen. The star was still there, but it was sick. Its light was dim and flickering. Around it, the nanite cloud swirled like a dark storm. "Can we see the planet?" Webb asked. Ortiz adjusted the screen. The second planet appeared. It was covered in cities. Billions of Mathara lived there. Webb could see their lights even from orbit. Those people had no way to escape. They had no ships large enough to evacuate. They could only wait and hope. "They know we are here," Ortiz said. "We are receiving messages from the planet. They are thanking us." Webb felt something heavy in his chest. Those people down there had been abandoned by the Galactic Council. The Council had chosen to study the problem instead of solving it. Now humanity, a race most of them had never met, was their only hope. "Tell them we will do everything we can," Webb said. The fleet moved into formation. Each ship took a position. They would attack the nanite cloud from different angles. The more ships that got through, the better their chances of success. "All ships report ready," Ortiz said. "We can begin the approach whenever you give the order, sir." Webb looked at the view screen one more time. He thought about all the people on all the ships. He thought about the Mathara below, watching and hoping. He thought about Earth so far away. "All ships," Webb said into the communication system. "This is Admiral Webb. We are going in. Stay on course. Deploy your stabilizers. If your ship fails, do not abort. Get as close as you can and eject the stabilizer manually. We do not leave until this star is saved. Good luck to all of you." The fleet began moving toward the star. As they got closer, the nanite cloud became visible. It looked like smoke, but it was not smoke. It was trillions of tiny machines, each one hungry for matter to consume. The Daedalus entered the cloud first. Immediately, alarms began sounding. The ship's outer hull was dissolving. The shields held for now, but Webb could see the power levels dropping. "Shield strength at 90%, Ortiz called out. 85%. 80%. Other ships reported similar problems. The Victoria on the left flank was losing shields faster than expected. The Endeavour trailing behind reported system failures. "Keep going," Webb ordered. "All ships maintain course." The Daedalus pushed deeper into the cloud. The star was ahead, massive and dying. They needed to get close enough to deploy the stabilizer. The device had to be injected directly into the star's corona. Too far away and it would not work. "Hull breach on deck 7, someone reported. "Sealing now." "Shield strength at 60%, Ortiz said. Her voice was calm, but Webb could hear the tension underneath. Behind them, the Victoria was in trouble. Her shields had failed completely. The nanites were eating through her hull. Captain Rodriguez sent a final message. "Shields gone. Hull failing. Ejecting stabilizer now." The Victoria's crew manually launched their stellar stabilizer. Then they tried to turn the ship around to escape the cloud. They did not make it. The Victoria broke apart 3 minutes later. "All hands lost." "The Victoria is down," Ortiz said quietly, "but her stabilizer is still functional. It is continuing toward the star." Webb gritted his teeth. 200 people dead, but the mission continued. "Shield strength at 40%, Ortiz said. "We are almost in position." The Daedalus pushed through the cloud. The ship was falling apart around them. Deck after deck reported damage. The engines were losing power. The life support systems were failing. "We are in position," Ortiz said. "Deploying stabilizer now." The cargo bay doors opened. The massive stellar stabilizer ejected from the ship. It was the size of a small building, packed with trillions of counter-nanites. The device fired its thrusters and headed toward the star. "Stabilizer away," Ortiz confirmed. "It will reach the corona in 90 seconds. All ships," Webb called. "Report status." The answers came back quickly. 8 ships had been destroyed. 8 more were heavily damaged and trying to retreat. But 34 ships had successfully deployed their stabilizers. 34 chances to save the star. "Get us out of here," Webb ordered. The Daedalus turned and began moving away from the star. The ship shook and groaned. More systems failed. More hull breaches opened. But slowly, painfully, the ship escaped the nanite cloud. Behind them, the stabilizers reached the star. They injected their counter-nanites into the corona. The tiny machines spread quickly, hunting for the plague nanites. When they found them, they destroyed them. "Sir," Ortiz said, staring at her screen. "I think it is working." Webb looked at the view screen. The dark cloud around the star was changing. It was becoming lighter. The nanites were dying. The star's light grew stronger. "The star is stabilizing," Ortiz said, her voice filled with wonder. "The temperature is rising. The fusion reaction is normalizing. We did it. We actually did it." The bridge crew erupted in cheers. People hugged each other. Some cried. They had done the impossible. They had saved a star. But Webb did not cheer. He was thinking about the 8 ships they had lost. Over 1,600 people. Dead because he had led them here. Dead because someone had to act, "Sir," Ortiz said quietly, seeing his face. They volunteered. They knew the risks. They saved 4 billion lives, Webb nodded slowly. She was right. But it still hurt. Messages began arriving from the planet below. The Mathara were celebrating. They were sending thanks and blessings. They were calling the humans saviors and heroes. On Consensus Prime, Ambassador Chen received news of the victory. She walked into the council chamber the next day with her head held high. The other races stared at her in silence. The Vathir High Speaker was the first to speak. "You saved the Mathara," she said. Her voice was hard to read, but it did not sound angry. It sounded thoughtful. "You violated our laws. You ignored our commands, but you saved 4 billion lives." "Yes," Chen said simply. 8 of your ships were destroyed." A Tarathi representative added. "Over 1,600 of your people died." "Yes," Chen said again. "Was it worth it?" The Vathir High Speaker asked. Chen looked at the High Speaker directly. 4 billion people are alive today because we acted. 1,600 humans gave their lives to save them. You tell me. Was it worth it? The council chamber was silent. No one had an answer. Finally, a Cathara representative stood. "The council must discuss this action. We must vote on appropriate consequences." "Of course," Chen said. "You discuss, you vote. You form committees. My people will continue saving stars." She turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the council erupted into arguments. Some wanted to expel humanity immediately. Some wanted to form a committee to study humanity's actions. Some, a very few, wondered if maybe humanity was right. Chen did not care what they decided. She went back to her office and sent a message to Earth. Kepler 442 saved. 8 ships lost. Fleet requests permission to proceed to next target. The response came quickly. Permission granted. More ships are being built. More crews are volunteering. "We will save every star we can reach," Chen smiled. The council could debate for years. Humanity would act. In the Kepler 442 system, the Mathara looked up at their star. It was bright again. It was warm again. Their world was saved. They built monuments to the humans who had died for them. They taught their children about the race that had traveled across the galaxy to help strangers. The Mathara never forgot. And they never stopped being grateful. The Prometheus fleet regrouped. 42 ships remained operational. They performed repairs. They said goodbye to the friends they had lost. Then they plotted a course to the next dying star. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of the Daedalus and looked at the star map. There were 17 more stars infected with the plague. 17 more worlds that needed saving. "Helm," Webb said. "Set course for the Tau Ceti system. Best speed." "Yes, sir," the helmsman replied. The fleet moved out. There was work to do. There were lives to save. The Galactic Council continued to debate what to do about humanity. They would debate for months. By then, humanity would have saved 5 more star systems. Some things could not wait for permission. 18 months had passed. The Prometheus initiative had become Project Marathon. Admiral Webb no longer commanded 50 ships. He commanded a fleet that changed every day. Ships broke down. Ships were destroyed. But new ships kept arriving from Earth, from Mars, from Alpha Centauri. Humanity was building ships as fast as they could. Every shipyard in human space worked day and night. Resources that once went to exploration now went to building stellar stabilizers. The entire economy of Earth had shifted to support the mission. Webb sat in his office on the Daedalus and looked at the numbers. 73 star systems saved. 8,000 humans dead. The ratio was better than they had expected at the start, but it was still hard to look at. 8,000 names. 8,000 families who would never see their loved ones again. There was a knock on his door. Captain Ortiz entered with a data pad. "New orders from Earth, sir," she said. "The Council has finally completed their comprehensive study." Webb took the pad and read it. After 19 months, the Galactic Council had confirmed what humanity had reported on day 1. The stellar plague was artificial. It was a weapon. The Council was now authorizing a measured response and forming a new committee to design appropriate interventions. Timeline: 8 to 12 years. Webb laughed. It was not a happy sound. 8 to 12 years. We will have saved every star in the Orion Arm by then, or the plague will have killed us all. "There is more, sir," Ortiz said. She looked uncomfortable. "The Council is holding a vote next week. They want to expel humanity for our unauthorized actions." Webb nodded. He had expected this. The Council did not forgive violations of their sacred laws. It did not matter that humanity had saved trillions of lives. They had broken the rules. "It does not change anything," Webb said. "We continue the mission, with or without Council approval." But something was changing. The younger races had been watching humanity's lonely war. They saw the Council debate while humans died. They saw the old races form committees while stars collapsed. And they remembered when their own civilizations had been young and desperate. The Zalari were the first to break ranks. They were a young race only 300 years into spaceflight. They still remembered what it was like to face extinction. Their homeworld had almost died in a climate disaster. Only quick action had saved them. The Zalari ambassador sent a message directly to Earth. "We want to help. Tell us what you need." Earth's response was simple. "We need ships. We need crews. We need people willing to die for strangers." The Zalari answered, "We understand. We will send what we can." 2 weeks later, 15 Zalari ships joined the human fleet. They were not military vessels. They were cargo ships, passenger ships, mining ships. The Zalari had retrofitted them with stellar stabilizers. The crews were volunteers, civilians who had never flown into combat. Admiral Webb met the Zalari commander in a video conference. Commander Thelzai looked nervous. His species resembled tall, thin birds with bright feathers. "We are not warriors," Thelzai admitted. "Our ships are not built for this kind of work. But we remember when the Council debated whether to help us during our climate crisis. They talked for 5 years. By the time they decided to act, we had already saved ourselves. We will not let that happen to others." Webb felt a surge of respect for this alien commander. "Welcome to the fleet, Commander. We will teach you everything we know. Together we will save more stars." The Korthan Republic joined next. They were older than the Zalari, but still considered young by galactic standards. They had been in space for 500 years. The Korthan looked like large reptiles with 6 arms. They were master builders. The Korthan did not just send ships. They sent their entire merchant fleet. Hundreds of vessels, all converted to carry stabilizers. They also sent engineers to help humanity build ships faster. "Our ancestors were saved by quick action when a plague swept through Korthan space," their ambassador explained to the Council. "The old races were still studying the disease when young races shared their cure. We have not forgotten that debt. We will not sit idle while people die." One by one, the younger races joined what they called the Coalition of Action. The Mithara, grateful for their salvation, sent every ship they had. Other races, inspired by humanity's courage, volunteered their resources. Within 6 months, the coalition had grown to 73 member species. On Consensus Prime, Ambassador Chen watched the Council fracture. The old races were angry. They saw the coalition as a betrayal of everything the Council stood for. They saw it as chaos, as dangerous rebellion. The Vaethir High Speaker confronted Chen in the Council chamber. "You are tearing apart millions of years of careful cooperation. The Council exists to prevent reckless action. You are teaching the young races that laws do not matter, that wisdom does not matter. Only action matters." Chen stood before the entire Council. Every eye was on her. She thought about Admiral Webb and his tired fleet. She thought about the 8,000 humans who had died. She thought about the trillions of aliens who were alive because humanity had refused to wait. "You are correct," Chen said. "We are teaching the young races that action matters. We are teaching them that when people are dying, you do not form committees. You do not debate for years. You act." And what happens when action is wrong? A Tarathi elder demanded. What happens when haste causes disaster? We have seen it before. Young races, full of passion, making terrible mistakes because they did not think carefully. Then we will make mistakes, Chen said. We will fail sometimes, but we will also succeed sometimes. And success saves lives. This is not wisdom, the HFY speaker said. No, Chen agreed. This is not wisdom. This is courage. And right now the galaxy needs courage more than wisdom. The council voted the next day. The motion to expel humanity passed easily. Then came the surprise. The motion to expel the other coalition species also passed. The old races had decided. If humanity would not follow the rules and if the young races would follow humanity, then none of them were welcome. 74 species walked out of the Galactic Council that day. They walked out together, united by a common belief. Action mattered more than approval. The Coalition of Action formed officially 1 week later. They met on Luna at humanity's moon base. The chamber was crowded with representatives from dozens of species. They did not look alike. They did not think alike. But they shared one thing, a willingness to act. Commander Thelzai of the Zalari spoke first. My people join this coalition proudly. We have seen what the Council offers, endless debate and careful study. We have seen what humanity offers, courage and sacrifice. We choose courage. The Korthan ambassador stood next. The Council builds monuments to wisdom. The coalition will build monuments to the people we save. That is a legacy worth having. One by one, every species pledged their support. They would fight together. They would save stars together. And if necessary, they would die together. Ambassador Chen addressed the coalition as its first elected leader. We face an enemy that does not care about laws or protocols. The stellar plague kills without mercy, so we will fight without hesitation. We will save every star we can reach. We will protect every life we can protect. And we will do it together. The coalition roared its approval. Back on Consensus Prime, the old council watched in silence. They had expelled the troublemakers. They had preserved their sacred traditions. But they felt, for the first time in millions of years, a strange emotion. They felt irrelevant. The HFY speaker stood in the empty council chamber. Most of the seats were empty now. The young races had left. Only the ancient species remained. Perhaps, she said quietly to no one in particular, we have forgotten something important. Perhaps wisdom without action is just words. But the other old races did not hear her. They were already forming a new committee to study the consequences of the coalition's formation. In space, the combined fleets of the coalition moved from system to system. Human ships flew alongside Zalari ships, Korthan ships, Mathara ships. They shared technology. They shared tactics. They learned from each other. The stellar plague continued to spread, but now it faced an enemy that matched its speed. For every star that died, the coalition saved 3 more. The mathematics were finally in their favor. Admiral Webb looked at the updated star maps. The plague's spread was slowing. They were winning, but the war was not over yet. 4 years after the first human ship entered the nanite cloud, the war was ending. The Coalition of Action had saved 347 star systems. They had lost ships, thousands of crew members, and countless resources. But they had won. Admiral Webb was older now. Gray hair had replaced black. Lines marked his face where there had been none before. He stood on the bridge of the Daedalus, which had been rebuilt 3 times during the war. The ship that had started this journey barely existed anymore. Every part had been replaced at least once. But it was still the Daedalus. It was still home. Sir, long-range sensors have detected something, Ortiz said. She had been promoted to Admiral herself, but she had chosen to stay on Webb's ship. Some bonds were too strong to break. What is it? Webb asked. It appears to be a ship. A very old ship. It is at the edge of the Sagittarius sector, deep in uncharted space. Webb looked at the sensor data. The ship was huge, larger than anything the Coalition had ever built. And it was old. The energy signature suggested it had been drifting for millions of years. Is it the source of the plague? Webb asked. We think so, sir. The nanite signature matches. This ship is producing the plague nanites. It has been doing so for a very long time. Webb felt a chill run down his spine. An automated weapon system, still fighting a war that ended millions of years ago, still killing because no one had ever shut it down. Send a message to the Coalition, Webb said. We found it. We are going to stop it. the Coalition assembled its largest fleet: human ships, Zalari ships, Korthan ships, and dozens of others. They met at the coordinates where the ancient ship drifted. When they arrived, everyone stared in awe. The ship was a dreadnought from a civilization no one remembered. Its hull was scarred by millions of years in space. But it was still functional, still producing nanites, still executing orders from commanders who had died before humanity had even learned to walk upright. "We need to board it," Webb said. "We need to shut it down from the inside." A strike team was formed. Humans provided the Marines. The Zalari provided hackers who could hopefully interface with the ancient computer systems. The Korthan provided engineers who specialized in old technology. Together they approached the dreadnought in a small shuttle. The boarding was dangerous. The dreadnought's automated defenses were still active. 2 shuttles were destroyed before they found a safe entry point. But finally the strike team made it inside. Captain Maria Santos led the human Marines. She had joined the fleet 4 years ago, after her brother died in the Tau Ceti mission. She had promised to finish what he started. The inside of the dreadnought was like walking through a tomb. Empty corridors stretched in every direction. The walls were covered in symbols no one could read. Everything was dust and darkness and ancient death. The nanite production facility should be at the core of the ship, a Zalari hacker named Kresh said. He was young, barely 20 in human years, but he was brilliant with computers. The team fought their way through the ship. The automated defenses were old but still deadly. They lost 3 Marines to ancient laser turrets. They lost a Korthan engineer to a collapsing floor. But they kept moving forward. Finally, they reached the core. It was a massive chamber filled with machines that no one understood. In the center, a computer system hummed with power. It had been running for millions of years. It had produced trillions of nanites. It had killed billions of people, and it was still trying to win a war that had ended before Earth had cooled. "Can you shut it down?" Santos asked Kresh. The Zalari hacker approached the computer carefully. His feathers were bright with concentration. He began working, his 6 fingers dancing across alien controls. "This is strange," Kresh said. "The system is not locked. It is waiting for orders. I think it is waiting for someone to tell it the war is over." "Then tell it," Santos said. Kresh worked for 20 minutes. The rest of the team stood guard, waiting for more defenses to activate. But nothing came. The dreadnought seemed to be holding its breath, waiting. Finally, Kresh stepped back. "I have sent the shutdown command. The computer is asking for confirmation. It wants to know if the war is truly over." "What do we tell it?" someone asked. Santos thought about all the people who had died, all the stars that had collapsed, all the suffering this machine had caused. She thought about her brother, floating frozen in space somewhere. "Tell it the war is over," Santos said. "Tell it everyone won." "Tell it everyone lost." "Tell it to rest." Kresh entered the command. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the humming began to fade. The machine stopped. The lights dimmed. The ancient dreadnought, after millions of years of war, finally powered down. The nanite production stopped. The stellar plague stopped spreading. The war was over. The Coalition fleet watched as the dreadnought went dark. A cheer erupted across every ship. People cried. People embraced. They had done it. They had saved the galaxy. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of the Daedalus and allowed himself a small smile. It was finished. Finally finished. News of the victory spread across the galaxy. The Coalition had succeeded where the Council had not even tried. They had stopped the plague. They had saved countless lives. They had proven that action mattered. On Consensus Prime, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. For the first time in their history, the ancient races did not know what to say. They had spent 4 years forming committees and studying the problem. The Coalition had spent 4 years solving it. The Vathir High Speaker requested a meeting with Ambassador Chen. They met in a neutral location, a small station between their territories. The High Speaker's crystalline form seemed dimmer than before. Less certain. "You were right," she said simply. "We were wrong." Chen did not gloat. She had lost too many friends to feel victorious. "You were cautious. Sometimes caution is wisdom, but sometimes it is just fear. We have become old," the High Speaker said. "We have lived so long that we forgot how to take risks. We forgot that sometimes you must act even when action might fail. Your species reminded us of that. So what happens now?" Chen asked. The Council wishes to apologize. We wish to welcome the Coalition back. We wish to learn from you. Chen shook her head. The Coalition is not returning to the Council. We have built something different. Something better. We act first and debate later. We take risks because lives matter more than rules. Then what will become of the Council? The High Speaker asked. That is for you to decide, Chen said. You can continue as you are. You can change. You can join us. The choice is yours. The meeting ended. The High Speaker returned to Consensus Prime. She addressed the Council one last time. For millions of years we have been the wise elders of this galaxy, she said. We have guided the young races. We have prevented wars. We have maintained order. But we have become so focused on avoiding mistakes that we have forgotten how to accomplish anything. The Coalition has shown us a different path. They make mistakes. They take risks. They lose people. But they also save people. Trillions of people. Perhaps it is time for us to learn from them. The Council debated her words for months. Some agreed. Some refused. Some wanted to form a committee to study the question. But slowly change came. Some of the old races joined the Coalition. Others reformed the Council, making it more focused on action. The galaxy would never be the same. 20 years later, a young ensign stood on the bridge of a Coalition patrol ship near Kepler 442. Her name was Rebecca Webb, granddaughter of the famous admiral. She had joined the fleet to honor her grandfather, who had passed away 5 years earlier. A Mathara approached her, wearing a translator pendant. The furry alien bowed respectfully. You are Webb's granddaughter? The Mathara asked. Yes, Rebecca said. Your grandfather saved my world. I was a child when the humans came. I remember looking up and seeing your ships fighting in the dark. I remember when the star became bright again. Why did your people do it? Why did you fight for us when no one else would? Rebecca smiled. She had heard this question before. Everyone asked it eventually. Because talking does not save lives, she said. Action does. That is the human way. And now it is the Coalition way too. The Mathara nodded slowly. The galaxy is better for it. Thank you. Thank you for teaching us to act. Rebecca looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity continued to explore, continued to build, continued to act. They made mistakes sometimes. They failed sometimes, but they never stopped trying. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not wisdom, not caution, but the courage to act when action was needed. The galaxy had learned. When extinction came, it did not wait for committee approval, and neither did the brave.